In this video, we'll learn how to create figures, especially how to create bar graphs and line graphs, as well as how to insert things like standard deviation bars, different formatting options such as axis labels and figures legends, and other things that you can do with Excel to create effective figures to put into your Word documents and PowerPoint documents. So as you can see, we have our mock data set here. And I've added some additional things to it. So now instead of just having weight and height values, we also have additional measures of weight. So we're pretending like this was perhaps a weight loss trial where we have a baseline weight, a 1 month weight, and a 3 month weight. And then we also have change in BMI corresponding to these same time points. And then I've already gone ahead and summarized these data in a couple of different ways. So here we have for females versus males, average baseline weight. And what I did here was use the average if function, which says that if the value here is female, then it's going to take the average of all the female values. So we have the average baseline weight for females and the same for males. And I did the same for the weights at 1 month and 3 month for these two different groups. And then I've also created the corresponding standard deviations for these different means. So this is the standard deviation for the females' baseline weight and for the males, and likewise for the 1 month and 3 month visits. So I could present these values in table format, but it's probably going to be more effective to look at them as either bar or line graphs so that we can actually see group differences as well as change over time. So the first thing we'll talk about is how to create a bar graph. So let's say that we wanted to make a figure where we're comparing baseline weights for males and females. And so what we want to do is take these data and highlight them because this is our data that we want to focus on within the graph. And so we highlight these and go to Insert. You could also do it up here. And then we would choose Insert Chart, or we can do Insert and then look at the charts over here. And so you have a visual here of the different types of charts. There's a lot of different ways that you could make a figure out of these data, but we're going to focus on these column or the bar charts, and we're going to choose 2D column here. And that's going to give us this nice figure here that shows us baseline weights for males versus females. So this turned out correctly in the sense that we have a bar for females and a bar for males here, but you might have more complicated data that has maybe differing groups and that this isn't quite correct. So note that there is an option to switch rows and columns, and this is basically, in this case, putting males and females into the same series with different colors. And then you could do something like add a legend so that you have the colors delineated here. The text is a little bit small. So that could be an option for you if that fits your data better. But in this case, we are going to go ahead and kind of keep it simple and go with the original way that it showed up, and we don't need that legend. Okay, so here we have a simple bar chart. And so there are ways that we can make this a little more effective for our purposes if we're going to put this into a Word document or a PowerPoint. One thing that we want to be able to add is standard deviations. And so what we can do for that is once we have these average bars here, these bars representing the mean values, then we can highlight them, go to Add Chart Element, and say that we want to add error bars. And so you can see here that there are options here that Excel will kind of auto-calculate these things, but it's if you already have the standard deviation or perhaps the standard error within your Excel file, then we can do the custom option, which is available right here. So we would choose custom, say specify value, and then we're going to choose the range that corresponds with the standard deviations for the means that are included in our graph. And so you can see here I'm highlighting that we want both for the male and the female values, and that will give us the corresponding standard error bar, the standard deviation bars that are around those means that we've plotted. So now we have a lot that we can do in terms of thinking about how this is formatted. And so if we want kind of a quick way to make it just either a minus or a plus error bar, we can do that here. Typically you want a cap on, but if for some reason you don't want a cap on there, you just want it to be a straight line, you can do that there. I'm going to click on this again so I can put the cap back on. And then in terms of our graph, we can do a lot of editing here. So let's say we think that this font is too small. We can go just up to the home ribbon where we have all these options, and we can go ahead and change the font here. So I'm going to choose to do Times font. I'm going to make it quite a bit bigger so it'll be easier to read. We can make these values bold if we want. We can take away the title here. And so a lot of times you can just kind of delete if there are things that you don't want. And then if we want to add things, then we want to go to Add Chart Element, and we can add things such as axis titles. So we want this to say baseline weight in kilograms. If we want our values to change their number of decimal places, we can do that here. If we want a line to show up here, there are a lot of different things that we can do within this formatting pane that will allow us to really modify it in a way that we like the best. So probably the best thing to do is to create your figure and then know that you can open up this formatting pane within the format ribbon, format pane option. That'll make it appear, and then it'll allow you to kind of do a lot of things in terms of editing the color, the style, the color of these bars here. So if we want them to be black and white, we can do that here. We can also just select the male bar and make that gray here. So really the sky's the limit as far as how you edit this. So that's how we create our bar charts. Now to make a line chart, it's fairly similar. We do the same steps that we started for the bar chart, where we highlight the data we want, go up to Insert, but this time we're going to choose this icon here for the line, and we can just choose 2D line, this first option here. And now you can see a nice plot of the change in weight status over time for males versus females. So now that we've created this, again, we can make our error bars in the same exact way as we did before, but this time we're actually going to do it for each line. So if I want to add the standard deviations for the male line, then I would highlight this series, add chart element, error bars, more error bar options, select custom, specify value, and then I would highlight the data that I want down here. And you have to be real careful here to make sure you're getting the right data, right? So I have to remember that I'm on the male line and I'm selecting the standard deviations for the male values. I'm going to do that again to create the negative error bars. And I hit OK, and there they are. I can do the same for the females. If I say add error bars, more error bars, specify value, and I'm going to choose the data for the females, standard deviations. You might be using standard errors. It kind of depends on your data and how you've analyzed it. So it would be the same way, just different values obviously here. And so now we have kind of this nice visual of the change over time as well as the variation around the means. So much like we did with the bar charts, we can edit this in a way that makes it more visually pleasing. We can take away these lines. We can make the font bigger throughout. We can change the font. We can move the legend by going to Format, Legend, and here we see over here in the formatting page there are options in terms of where it's placed. If we want it on top, on the left, on the right. You can even manually move it as well and expand it. If we wanted to insert a title, we could, or we could just get rid of this. We can make sure that we have nice lines to represent our axes since it's not showing up right now. We can make sure that we have axis titles. So on the bottom, we can put assessments. Over here for the y-axis, we can put weight in kilograms, and things are looking a lot better.